Hi guys, Cricket here. Today we're going to be doing a little overview on the Sumatra Carbine. This is a 25 cal variety. The overall length of this gun is 35.5 inches and its weight is 6 pounds, unscoped. It makes for a very nice gun to carry in the woods. It's got an excellent balance to it and it shoulders extremely well. First off, I'd like to point out the fact that it's a lever action, as you can see. Lever action operates and cycles the mag. The magazine is a cylinder revolver type magazine. It takes 6 shots. It's an extremely long cylinder, so you can put extra long pellets in. And I'd really like to show you on the bottom of the gun, it's got a power adjuster. And this power adjuster right here allows you to turn the gun up and turn the gun down at will. I find that power adjuster to be very, very helpful. It allows me to shoot heavy pellets like the 43 grain Eugen, which it seems to shoot extremely well, on high power, and down to the 25.4 grain JSB on a lower power setting, which it also seems to shoot very well. I find dialing the power adjuster with this particular gun anywhere in that 850 plus to 940 feet per second, I can start to get some extremely good accuracy out of this rifle. It has open sights, and the open sights, there's a peep on the back, and in the peep on the back, there's 2 different sizes. It flips up and down. You have to take the little screws out, and then you can flip it either direction. And it has a hooded aperture in the front, and it adjusts the elevation by turning this little wheel. And then the windage is there's a couple screws in back that slide it back and forth. One of the things I don't like is, in order to use the open sights, you have to take off the scope rail. There's 2 screws on the scope rail, and when you take that off, that allows you to see through the aperture. Without taking it off on this model, you can't see. On the 500cc 2500 model, they have a different rear bladed sight which you can use with the scope rail, which I like much better. I kind of wish they had it on all these rifles. The cheek comb on it is very high, so I've found using high scope mounts to be the best for my head and scope alignment. So when I shoulder the gun, I like to be able to look straight through. I don't like to try to have to tilt my head and find anything. And with high scope mounts, I bring the gun straight up and I'm looking straight down the scope, which makes for very nice. And also, because of the high cheek, it makes it hard, in my opinion, to use the open sights. You can, I have, and they work alright. It's just not the most comfortable shooting for me. So there's just a little bit of overview on that. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about eye relief in the Sumatra. What I have found in using the Sumatras in full-length scopes, there's often a lot of difficulty getting the proper eye relief because you have such a short scope rail. So I have used with full-size scopes offset mounts that allow you to move the scope forward. And when I use a lower power scope, I try to find the more compact one so I can make sure that I have enough eye relief. It's got a little short on eye relief, in my opinion. It's the way it is. I find this 2x7 Hawk fits it quite well. I actually got it back a little bit farther, so if you would need a little bit more eye relief, you'd be able to slide it forward. I've had no issues with magazine clearance. There's plenty of room, even with the offset mounts. I've used BLK mounts on it that move forward, and I've had zero trouble with magazine clearance. So let's take just a minute and look at how the gun is made. It's all metal. The newer ones have plastic magazines, and this one has metal magazine. I'm not sure if plastic's any better or worse than metal. The fit and finish is decent. It's not, precision, but it's very well made. You have a nice hardwood stock on it that seems to be fairly well finished and fairly well manufactured. They have a decent comb for your hand or for your cheek, and there's a nice checkering for the foregrip. It has a gauge on the bottom. The gauges aren't the greatest. They're kind of accurate, and they kind of give up easy. So overall, the bluing on it seems very nice. It doesn't have any flaws that I can really see. It's not super deep bluing, but it's plenty deep enough for my likings. And then the receiver, it's got a little hunting scene on it. I guess take it or leave it. It's not horrible and it's not awesome, but the nice part about it is that it is all metal. The lever action is extremely heavy and it's wide and comfortable. The trigger is a little on the narrow side, but it is curved, and I find that to be very comfortable as well. And the safety is right on the bottom, which is something I'm learning as I go as air guns. Safeties are all over the place. In a hunting situation and even just shooting, it's really important to know where the safety is and what kind of safeties you like and don't like. This one's very nice. If you're hunting, you can just actuate it, with one hand without even fear of the gun going off or anything like that. So I find the safety to be pretty nice. You can do it silently if you're real careful, but it is a little on the noisy side. So that's pretty much the fit and finish of the rifle. I'd say for the price category that the rifle is in, it's exceptionally good fit and finish on these. So now we're going to take a second to talk about the magazine and how it functions. It's a rotary magazine, and inside here there's an actuator lever that comes down that you can barely see, and it trips the magazine. It rides on little ball bearings, and then there's a little dented that comes out that makes the magazine lock in place, so when the probe goes forward, it doesn't rotate out of position. It keeps everything lined up. Now the cool part about these is mine, the metal ones are labeled 1 through 6. I'm not sure about the plastic ones again, but you can write on them with a magic marker or scribe them or whatever. And what it seems to be doing every time is it gives one rotation whenever you put a magazine in. So if it's in the number 6 position and you put it in, it'll rotate to 1. Now the nice part about that is again, if you're out hunting and you decide you want to go to another spot and you don't want to have to shoot your gun, which I often don't like shooting my guns, you can decock the rifle by pulling the trigger and holding the lever, and you have a pellet in the breech and you have a magazine with one hole pellet missing. So what you do is you correlate, okay, I know number 4 is empty, and the opposite of number 4 is, let's see, I have to do this right, number 6 will go. Number 6, and the opposite of number 6 is number 3. So what I do is when I get to wherever I'm going, because I've decocked my rifle and I recock it, I look for number 3, I put that at the top position, and I back it off one rotation, so number 2, and when I put it in, now it rotates to the empty cylinder, and I'm able to continue on with my hunting without having to worry about 2 pellets being in the breech. And I find that very nice. At the cost of pellets these days, it's nice not to have to shoot them all the time when you're just hopping 2-3 miles down the road, and you don't want to have your gun cocked and loaded in the case, which, I guess some people might think it's okay. I don't particularly like having my guns cocked and loaded when I'm not using them or hunting with them, so I like to decock them and take the magazines out, put them in a case, and then when I get to wherever I'm going, I can reset up again, cock the rifle, and throw the magazine in. So the magazines cycle very well. I've had 0 issue with magazine cycling. It's nice and smooth. There's a lock on the back side. You can't really see it, but it's inside here, and there's a little hook that grabs it. So with the Sumatras, when you're shooting higher power, the lever will have a tendency to try to pop open a little bit. You're using, some pretty powerful springs inside there to make the valves work. So I generally hold the Sumatra with my hand over the top of the lever. Trying to get my words out. Cricket's still learning how to do this. So if you have your hand over here, it actually becomes very comfortable. And you can go, when I go to cock the rifle, I use my thumb and I throw it forward and I bring it back like so. What I find in doing that is it's not so hard on your hands because pre-charged guns have a heavy cocking force. When you try to cock them like this, I find that it's a little bit hard on the hand. So what I generally do, bring the rifle up, and I'm sitting here, I just hook it and bring it back. And what that allows me to do is a quick, fast cycle. I don't have to worry about over torquing on the lever because my thumb will give way, and I get a nice clean cock to the rifle every time. I also get a nice grab on the rifle this way, and I get a really good feel to the trigger that way. So there you have it. There's the Sumatra rifle and Cricket's review of that rifle. Okay, and lastly I'd like to talk about filling the rifle and what the rifle comes with. The rifle comes with 2 magazines, an extra valve, and it comes with studs for a sling, and the manual. It comes with a fill probe, and it comes with the port. Okay, on this particular rifle, I prefer Foster fittings, and the nice part about a Sumatra rifle is that it has a check valve inside the tube. So in order to change over to a Foster fitting, all you gotta do is get the right size fitting, which are, if you go on the internet, you can find several places that offer different types of Fosters. And then you just unscrew this one. Basically it sits here, you unscrew it out. I put a screwdriver in the hole. This sleeve slides right off. And it's just held on by an O-ring here. So you just slide that off, stick a screwdriver in there, turn it out, and then you take your fitting and the right O-ring, screw it back in. All that seals these is a little O-ring on the end. You don't have to worry about depressurizing the rifle because the check valve inside will keep all that air in. So you can do it on a full charge without any fear of any trouble at all. And I just basically, I like the Foster fill. The probe part works good. You put this end on whatever it is, you know, you're using a tank or a pump or whatever, and you just slide it in, make sure it's all the way in, and then you fill it up from there. The thing I don't like is you close this off and you have lube and stuff in here and you got an exposed part. So, I mean, if you're out hunting in the woods and stuff, dirt and debris is going to get on here. So you're really going to have to kind of watch that a little bit when you rotate it back, that it doesn't get into the hole, and then you stick your probe in, and then there, you know, down the line, that little itty bitty hole is clogged up, your check valve doesn't work right. So I find, for me, the Foster fitting, this one's got a screw-on cap, works extremely well. I'm very, very happy with this style of Foster fitting. I've had it on several of my rifles. One thing I did know when I put this fitting on and some of the other fittings, that you have to get a thicker O-ring for the Sumatras. They need a 3/8 by 1/8 by 1/8 size O-ring. Otherwise they won't seal at all, they'll leak like crazy. So anyways, when you go to fill it, Sumatras have a check valve in them that doesn't have a spring. So it just free floats in there. When the gun's empty of air, you can rattle it around like change in a film container. Just rattle, rattle, rattle. So you need to point the rifles at the ground, especially when they're low on air, and you need to cock them if they're out of air, because the spring tension's so heavy on them that it holds that valve open. So with this one, the setup is just Foster, clip it on, and then we want to fill to 3,000 pounds. The fill pressure on a Sumatra is 3,000 pounds. So far I've been getting about 18 to 24 good shots depending upon the power rating. If I have it on full power, you're only talking 10. So we fill the 3,000 pounds. Another thing about the Sumatra is it needs to exhaust air quickly when you go to bleed it. If you have a slow bleeding tank or valve setup, you may run into difficulties where that check valve won't pop into place and seal properly. So it's best to bleed them as fast as you can. Just like that. Pow! That's all you want to hear. So if you try to bleed them off where they're real slow, they'll just keep going and going and going and going and going and going and going. So then all the air is out of your gun. So basically, that's what you have with the Sumatra. Easy to fill and easy to use. All in all, I believe it to be a really nice shooting gun.